Kingston, the capital, typically British colonial, has all the flavor of the old world.
Yes, people, my name's Sean, aka Screamer, and I'm the founder of NeuroSoundTherapyCIC, and this is our 75th year Windrush Anniversary project, brought to you by Birmingham City Council. For me, Windrush is a very interesting topic because, from my understanding of it, my grandparents came here in the 50s and 60s thinking that the streets would be paved with gold, thinking it would be the land of opportunity and the promised land, only to get here to realize that that wasn't necessarily the case. And by the time they got here and settled, it was too late to turn back and go home. So they had to really make things work. And that's where, like, I guess I even got my resilience from. You know, the struggles and challenges that they faced really paved the way for the next generations to come. So I just want to make sure that I honor and venerate, you know, the ones that came before me. And that's what this project is about, highlighting.
Many are ex-servicemen who know England. They served this country well. In Jamaica, they couldn't find work. Discouraged but full of hope, they sailed for Britain.
This project is called A Generational Groove, where we will be getting some older musicians closer to the Windrush generation and some younger musicians, which are like the grandchildren, third generation Windrush, putting them together and creating a song that speaks to the challenges, the intergenerational similarities that we might or might not have, and really to bridge the knowledge gap, really, because for me, I've never done anything like this, working with older musicians from the community and actually making a song. Like, I've, like, you know, collaborated in different ways, but I've never actually consciously tried to make a body of work together, which I think is a bit weird. I don't know why I don't know why I haven't done this before, and I'm not sure if it happens a lot, but I've never really seen it happen that much in my genres of music that I work in my generation. So this project is really about bridging that gap and, yeah, like sharing knowledge, wisdom and information. Putting these elements together is going to be interesting, to say the least, and I know I'm excited and nervous because I've never done something like this before, so it's going to be great to see what happens, man.
Hi, I'm Tony Talbot, and I'm Senior Lecturer in Black Studies here at BCU. I'm a specialist in African and Caribbean political history, and also Black British history, and so most of my work is about African economic development, political history, and, as I said, Black British history.
I'm Colin Gabidon. I'm a musician and an artist.
Basil Gabidon, born in Jamaica, Kingston, Jamaica. Music, yeah, I play guitar, songwriter, and also, let's call it musical creator.
Okay, I'm Stefan, aka SG, part of the Gabidon family, from Handsworth, born and raised originally. And I make music, as well as being an entrepreneur and everything else that it coincides with being Stefan or SG, you know what I mean? We've got many titles.
I'm an artist, I'm a musician, and most of what I do is coloured by reggae and dancehall.
It creates that sound kind of effect, you know, I'm doing it by
the bass playing
with
the same riff.
Are both playing at the same time?
Same time, and that would give it the big.
Oh, that's how they did it.
And that swing and that drum. So it's emphasized riff.
Yes. Yeah. Because we do that stuff digitally, like we'll have like a sub bass and then like a higher bass at the same time doing the same thing.
Yeah, there you go.
And that's how it creates that sound kind of effect. Yeah. You know, we're doing it live. That's amazing. Ding, ding, ding. Ding. Get them little bits in, you know. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
And a lower octave with that.
Well, with a bass guitar.
Yeah.
yeah. I'm pretending I've got a bass.
Yeah. I'm thinking whether to use like a gated reverb on the snare.
Yeah.
To give it that old school. Yeah, to give it that.
Well, you will need things like that for that period. You know,
but like
because that was
modernized somehow.
Because you'll be mixing it with what the grime thing, and then in it. So, I mean, that was really interesting.
I know. Like, even me, I'm like, well, okay, it's going to be good to see how this comes together.
The
Rastaman chant. Yeah.
Them kind of.
And it's moving.
Actually, that would be nice as well, but I'm not. It's a quick 3-minute tune.
Well, that's the thing, because time's of the essence and we ain't going to have that much time to do it. It's going to have to be like, yeah. It's going to have
So
to.
basically, you want like a back in the day bass line.
Yeah,
With
like dub.
with a way of dropping it now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, what I'm hearing in my head, I don't think I've heard necessarily done before, but in a sense I have, but not necessarily.
I think the stories that we heard as children, living both here in the UK and in Jamaica where I grew up, about my parents' experience and their friends and families and their experience about coming to Britain in the 1950s, 60s. There are certain commonalities. There are a lot of stories that I heard, personal accounts. So from my parents' side of things, in order for them to come to Britain, my family had to sell a cow. And based on that, my father was able to get a ticket and to come to Britain in 1958. So the family had to make a sacrifice in order for him to come here. And the deal was, obviously, when he got here, he would then pay back that loan. And my father and the man who gave him the loan are both dead, and I don't think that deal was ever sorted.
Born in Jamaica, Kingston, Jamaica. Left Jamaica when I was 8, came to England, and ended up in this place called Handsworth.
I'm from the Caribbean, Jamaica is where I was born. Came to England as a young lad in that time when things were a bit up and down, you know, as you know, we had the Windrush period. Music and art was almost started at the same time, because when I was at school doing art in the junior school actually, and you know, we had a project to do, a little drawing, and for me at that time it was the beginning of saying, well, okay, yeah, art is something I'm going to do. And at the same time we were playing around with music. I used to play on the chairs.
Used to race in our front room, in our parents' front room.
And, you know, my parents' chairs, and breaking up, mashing up the chairs and everything.
The chair was the drums.
I remember even making my own drumsticks, you know.
Somebody's mouse was the bass guitar, and I had a guitar.
So these are my earliest memories, what I remember. And just hearing this, like the 16 beat and the drums. I'm like, Dad, what are you doing? And he's trying to show me and explain, but you know, it's just naturally been hearing a reggae sound come.
I start picking up mics, picking up bass guitars, and then we transfer that onto a computer, and start trying to do what they were doing. So they're recording analog like that, and we're doing that, aren't we? And you got Wiley.
History repeats.
You get what I'm trying to say? So it's just the same thing. It's still music. It's still us expressing our pain and suffering through music. And it started with, I'd say, my dad's generation, your dad's generation. They were doing it first, and he was running around watching his dad. I was running around watching my dad. Plus, all of the pain and suffering was hearing through the Dennis Brown, the Burning Spear.
Don't forget Headquarters.
Headquarters, you get me?
Smart, bro.
Big sounds.
No more than me.
You know what I'm saying? So we're just doing what they were doing.
That's it.
And it's the same pain. Yeah. The pain hasn't stopped. You know why? Because but we're still suffering. We still got the same scars.
It depends on your mindset, though.
Definitely. But what I'm saying is, when you look at what's happened to us as a group of people.
Windrush vibes.
Yes, blood.
The third generation Windrush descendant. Music was just in my family, and naturally that's all I heard, reggae, rhythms and beats and them type of things there. So big up my people there.
What's missing these days?
So my thing, like, making time to get in touch with my roots. I'm gonna get in touch with my roots back with the Windrush. When I born in Birmingham, and sometimes I play some man, an original Gabby plays up some things, some musical songs, some massive music. That's where I come from. That's where I come from. No. With that day, you know, insane, you know, Gabby down on the drums, Gabby down on the strings, and me on the vibes.
So the first one?
Yeah, I like the key of it.
I got. What about Prophecy? I taped a bit of that.
Prophecy, we got.
Yeah, we got. So you prefer the first one? First one was
Music started for me in Jamaica when I used to hear the sound system playing playing on the dance at the weekend. Also, as well, I used to go to the bars and dance. Dance to the jukebox, the sound of the jukebox, and get people throwing money at me. Back in the day, it would have been something called threepence. Look it up and find out what that is. How much that's worth now.
When I see elderly people walking now, I say there goes another encyclopedia, because they're full of knowledge and experience that we don't have. We think we have it, but the real people with the knowledge are the people walking up and down the streets here with all that information in their head, but they don't even know that they have the information until we go and interact with them. So sometimes this younger generation, they're not interacting with their grandparents. They observe them, but they're not interacting close enough to understand and appreciate that heritage. They may eat the food and not even understand the history behind the food that they're eating. It's just rice and peas. Oh, that's just what we do, we think. Where does that come from?
Rice and peas, shellfish and callaloo, things like patties, hard old bread, dumplings. These are all things that are part of the culture.
Just by looking at the food we eat, we can see the connections. So when the Caribbean people are eating, Jamaicans especially are eating rice and peas, as it's called by Jamaicans, we might think, well, that's a Caribbean thing, but not realizing we've taken it lock, stock, and barrel from Ghana, West Africa. The same rice cooked in beans and transported it from there straight into the Caribbean.
Give me push that, push.
So you where your car is, coming like a ton like 32 lorries. Go up in the hills and pretty 40 days. Hard been to the beard, come straight out the forest. Conquer my sins, run them out in Charlie's. Repent my sins to the Lord, say sorries. Just warming, I'm just warming.
The Windrush generation's experience has helped me to function in this environment in a way where, one, that helped me to learn to interact with different people no matter what situations I'm in. So for example, they were working for certain people that may not have liked them. They would have to carry on working really or find another job in order for them to look after their families. So principles like sacrifice, these kind of principles allow me to even function now, even whatever hardships I'm going through. And it also allows me to interact with different people, understanding that Britain has many different cultures within it who have been through many different things.
I experience challenges that my fellow black people was experiencing. I experienced harassment from police. I experienced, would you call it neglect in the educational system? Luckily though, it didn't go as far as I've seen it did with some of my peers, as I was, you know, of dual parents, so I had my mum and my dad. A lot of the children that were at school when I was at school, my generation, some were single parent backgrounds, and I noticed, this is me as a young man, or a young child being in schools, noticing the difference that the families who had their mum and dad, the support that they got, compared to the families that just grew up with their mum.
Intro.
Got what Carlton
That's the start.
So it start backwards, almost like it. I think. Yeah, it was that. I think that's what you're saying.
I mean, back in the 70s, when I first saw Bob Marley, was back in 75. I mean, he'd been to the UK before, but you know, I didn't know about it. We were just starting up in music with Steel Pulse, and my brother and myself, we went to see Bob Marley in 75 at the Odeon, that was in Birmingham City Centre, and there was another band playing by the name of Third World, and we were watching that gig. It was fantastic. But the key thing is, when Third World came on, because they were the supporting band, Basil, my brother, said to me, "Colin, that's exactly how I want our band to be." You know, Third World. The music they were kicking it. And he says, "That's exactly how I want Steel Pulse to be." And so that stayed in my mind. I remember that clearly. You know, as I say, that was mid-70s, and people were bubbling and wanting to express themselves musically. You know, it was fantastic. So that was a great gig. And I saw Bob Marley again back in, I think it was 78 at Stafford, another massive gig. But by then I had left Steel Pulse, and Steel Pulse actually supported Bob Marley in 78. So for me, seeing them in 75, and my brother saying, "That's exactly how I want this band Steel Pulse to be," to when I saw Bob Marley again in 78, Steel Pulse was actually supporting, but I wasn't there. But it was a great gig.
The aspect of Caribbean culture that I enjoy, or that appeals to me the most, surprise, is the historical one and the traditions. When I first went to Jamaica as a child in 74, my eyes were opened, because up to that point I had never seen the Jamaican culture close up. It was something that you hear about, as it was the stories that we were told, the experiences that my parents went through. So we would hear about it. But when I went to Jamaica, I saw it firsthand.
Streets, the religions, the streets.
And most of them don't really believe that there is a creator, to be honest.
You know what I'm saying? There's nothing to bind it together except music. And the man them now sing about love, John, all that kind of love, and now them dealing with, I can't come and cut up your mother, you chop up your face, I can't wake you, you know?
You know what you don't need to think about? Used to. What was our conversation about when I met up back with used to? Tell him. He's saying this in here now. Remember, I linked you lot in Triller Studio. First time I met you.
You're talking about meditation or growing?
Talking about music, message,
boom,
boom, boom, bam, bam, bam. Saying the same thing he's saying. That they ain't that no more. There's just beer nonsense, so someone has to come and, you know what I'm saying?
But what I've realised is it's just all pain, innit? From my uncle's day,
Trauma.
was the pain that
It's
sounds.
trauma.
Today, they're talking about killing it. That's what's pain.
It is pain. It's just the
that-
trauma from
No, was it Yeah, it was the. So after that, it goes into
Stepping bit.
Yeah, that bit's
just a step.
That's the one drop bit.
Yeah, one drop.
Yeah, that bit just sounds.
Yo, what's it?
Wait. What could have came from a shared mind? Drunk out Babylon fight. Confusion blind leading the blind. Don't want to worship idols and images. These are all fallen stars that shine. Glorify guns and knife and crime. Pagan videos, secret side. There's always a message behind. No accident is done by design. Free up your mind. It's time to free up your mind. But tell them blind lead the blind. Not time to tell them blind lead the blind. Yo.
When you're down, get you right when you're left. Back we get you up front. Good vibes now, we don't stress. We cure when you're down. Get you right when you're left. Back we get you up front. Good vibes now, we don't stress. Rising up with the sun. My heart be rhythm of drums. Energy second to none. Good vibes are always welcome. Good music helps release attention. Give yourself time enough attention. A true one to achieve ascension. Develop is an objection.
British culture as we know it exists, I think, partly because Britain has integrated with the rest of the world. And that's true for most countries. You know, so it's like what I was saying about Caribbean food. Half of Caribbean food is not Caribbean in origin. In origin. It didn't come from there. So it's because as human beings, we integrate, we move around. Countries that remain isolated from each other, they generally develop less than others. You really need to integrate in order to develop, to trade and so on. So that some of that mingling is important. It's just about the exploitation that we don't want, the slavery and all of that. We could have done without that. But the mingling is important. So without that, cultures will develop on their own if left by themselves. But when they share ideas from other places, we tend to find out they develop more. So the Romans did that, the Greeks, the Arabs, everybody borrowed from everywhere else and everyone else and then embraced it as their own. Britain is no exception to that rule, nor is the Caribbean. Exactly the same.
Today is the day. All of our jam sessions have come to this point now, and we're here at ACM, Academy of Contemporary Music, to get down this recording, and I'm excited. Come on, let's go.
This is epic. When you got generations to generations.
Come on, man.
And when they come, they join the Atlantic Ocean.
Keeping this land user.
That was the purpose. Gambia was big because Casamance was part of Gambia.
Yeah.
No.
I'm just asking.
This is the process. This is the part you don't see when people are making songs. Or you listen to the artist songs, you don't realise that it took 2 hours to mic up the drum kit. Not play the part, just mic it up.
You can make a tune on your iPhone. You can make a tune on your computer. You can make you can have your own studio. Back in the day, you had to go to a studio and you had to pay, an arm and a leg, to be fair. And most of the time, if you didn't have a record deal in those days, you weren't gonna get your records out.
Hi, I'm Malachi and I'm the pianist on the Generational Groove project.
See, I'm saying we needed that.
The Windrush generation was the first generation. The second and third generation laying down the foundation. Find our way.
I think the most important thing I would understand and cherish from that post-war generation labeled Windrush is that if you want something, you have to work towards it. Your dreams, your aspirations may change, but you still work. Most of those people who came here from the 40s, 50s, 60s, their general intention was never to settle. They came here to work and to go back. Most of them never did. Despite the struggles, they made Britain their home, and they've contributed to, I think, the British history and culture, modern British history and culture.
To make your own layer.
Find our own way. First generation, second and third generation, laying down the foundation.
You want me to come in straight after them, yeah? Yo, Windrush, and I'm outside, we trust, and a rival they beat and cheat us. Took events and shared them on melodies, ancient remedies, heal like a discuss. Show love even when some discuss.
Taking time to get in touch with my roots, and I get in touch with my roots. Back to the Windrush, man, I born and bred Birmingham, and I for praise up man and original Gabidon. Raised up to kings of musical sons and message music, that's where I come from. How you mean, what's SG on?
Find a way. Find our own way. Find our way. Find our own way.
Don't be shy. Don't be afraid of who you are. You know, stand up for who you are. You know, don't get watered down, and don't feel you have to blend in. People respect you more when you stand up for what you are, of who you are. I mean.
It's not so much about celebrating the heritage for me. I think we do a lot of celebration. In fact, probably we do too much celebration without fully understanding what we're celebrating or even why we're celebrating it. Jamaica's independence yesterday. People are jumping up and down and celebrating and so on. But do they know the history of Jamaica's struggle to get to 1962? And the same with Ghana, Nigeria, or any of the other colonies, former colonies of Britain. Are they familiar with the history, or are we just having a party? You know, and we can have the party by all means. Let's have the one-day Christmas. But then after that, what next? What comes after that? So for me, it's not so much about celebrating, but reflecting, learning from, and seeing how we can move on. Having had that kind of start that those individuals have given us. Yeah, so that would be my response, yeah.
Just never lose sight of where you come from. Always keep them core values close to your heart. Like a lot of people that I know from the Caribbean Windrush generation hold morals and values very close to their heart. So
growing up with the music and the knowledge of what we know and we've experienced, I think it's very important to pass that on to the next generation. The
best way to pass it on, I would say, is to continue to document it through documentaries like these, through books, through videos, through music, through songs. The more you tell the story, the more people will understand it. And because of the things that were gone through at the time, the values and the principles will be passed on, the more the story is shared. So the best way to do it is continue to document the history.
So just taking some time out to reflect on the project and what a journey it's been, man. 4 days essentially to, get musicians together, rehearse, write the music, write the lyrics, put it together, record it. It was more work than I anticipated it to be honest. But it was really, 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 really rewarding. And it's safe to say, I think we all learned a lot from this experience. Like the older musicians sharing the wisdom of just the little moments of telling us stories about, what it was like, even musically, growing up for them. Taught me a lot. And it kind of, it's like holding up a mirror and showing you yourself in a weird way, but like in an intergenerational kind of way. And it kind of showed me that we're way more similar than I think we think sometimes. And something I've really took from it is it's very important to connect intergenerationally and not think, oh, those guys are old or those guys are too young. I think it's about, if we're here at the same time, if we're alive at the same time, we're the same age. Once again, like to thank everybody that's been involved in the project for really like helping make this actually come together, because it's really impressed. And you can find the song, it'll be out on all digital streaming services, and hopefully we get to perform it in an event near you.
Find our way, find our way, find our way, find our own